All right. Hey, everybody. What's happening? What's shaking? What's going on? This is Andy coming to you from here at Sadowsky, Germany. And I'm with my good friend, Lars Lehmann.
Hi, guys.
We're just having some great discussions. You know, we haven't seen each other in many years, but we've known each other for many years. And we have kind of a similar parallel story in bass playing for many years. We're a similar age. We've been around and done a lot of different types of playing in a lot of different types of playing situations. And for this video, what we're going to talk about is the importance of chord charts. And I'll start by saying how I got involved in learning about chord charts and how it's affected my career. When I went to college in the 1980s, I studied music. When I went into college, I hadn't been in orchestra or band prior to that time. I was a rocker kid, long hair, black leather jacket. Right. So when I went into college, it was kind of a culture shock for me because I hadn't had any traditional music theory training. So I was kind of at a handicap. But the professors at my college were very helpful, and they saw that I kind of had good abilities as a player. And they said, what you really need to know is how to understand chord charts. Yeah. So it became about the real book. My teacher brought out the real book, and he just opened it up and to Misty or Autumn Leaves or one of them jazz standards, and he said, okay, this is an A major, and this little triangle that indicates that it's a major chord.
And this is what you can play over that chord.
And this arpeggio are the notes that you can play over that chord. And we just went through, and we even formed an ensemble called Improvised Music Ensemble. And there was all different instruments. There was like an oboe player, and there was a piano player, and there was a drummer and a bass, and I was playing bass, and a guitar player, and just a French horn player. So like anybody that wanted to be part of this could be part of the improvisational music group. And all we did was play tunes out of the real book together. That's so with cool. The teacher supervising us.
Yeah.
And I learned about first and second endings and repeats and chord symbols, and I got used to the idea of being able to improvise, create my own bass line just by looking at that chord symbol, like you said. What notes should I be playing? And I learned about approaching each new chord chromatically or leading into new chords and setting things up. And that actual skill of all the things that I learned in the years that I was at college, that's the skill that I've used more than anything throughout the last 42 years of working as a bass player.
For me, really, it's been something similar. I think I try to recall where I actually learned to play along with chord charts, and I probably did it as early as when I went to music school, but for sure I did it when I studied music at the university. We had a similar thing going on. We also had an ensemble playing, Autumn Leaves, you name it, Take the A Train, all that stuff. But what was very important for me was my gala gigs, my function gigs back then. And we would play like every weekend, like on Friday and Saturday. And we had a thing going on as the people were being served, dinner. It usually would start out with a soup. So we call it spoon music. And that's what we did. We would play jazz standards, as part of this spoon music. And once I got to a point where I thought, oh, this is difficult for me, this chord connection, I would practice it for within the next week to come, right? And that's how I really got into this whole chord chart playing. And I think it was very important for me. Now, at the same time, I was reading music ever since I went to music school, but I wasn't really too good at it. But then I started playing musical shows in 2000, like the early 2000s, because I had received more and more offers to play in musical shows. And I always had to refuse because I wasn't able to play the double bass back then. Until one day I decided, why don't you just learn it, man? And I did. I took a crash course from a classical double bass player. By the early 2000s, I had my first musical shows, the pit jobs, which I still do today as my bread and butter gigs. And that's where I really got into reading music, and my skills really took off from there. I understand when I talk about my this whole subject with my students, some of them say, I'm never really in a situation where I need to be able to read music. And I understand that, but I can tell from my point of view, it's still kind of an important skill to have, whether you need it or maybe you don't, but one day maybe you will need it, and you'll be happy you did it. What about you? Do you read music at all?
I don't practice it enough, so it goes away. It's one of those things that's not like riding a bike, meaning if you don't practice it regularly, you're going to get worse at it. During the time when I was in music school and I was learning and practicing and having to prepare, the Bach unaccompanied cello suites, and I had to do it, I was able to get it going pretty good. But then I went into rock and roll and rhythm and blues,
and it gets lost, right?
It got lost. But I did do many years ago. I did do several musicals, like you're talking about, in the pit, working with a musical director. And that's a really cool experience, because in a show like that, you've got, 10 or 15 or 20 actors, singers that are singing and dancing and acting. You've got the whole stage crew and all the sets changing, and you've got the musical director. There's so many moving parts to a big show like that, and it's really fun. Now, I didn't do it on a huge level with a big theater group. I did it with a smaller theater group, a repertory theater group. Yeah. But the people that I was working with were really talented. Like the musical directors that they hired were from Disney, which are some of the best cats. They're some of the best. And they were usually the piano player.
Yes, right.
And
they sure know what they're doing.
Oh, man. and I had a great relationship with them. Sometimes they want you to play what is written. Mm-hmm. They need you to play what is written. Yes. But other times they work to the strengths of the different musicians in the band.
And you're welcome to come up with your own ideas.
And so there would be times when like the musical director would say, you're not playing what's written, but I like what you're playing because it's grooving harder than what is written. Do that. Yeah. But at measure 16, I need you to play that C sharp on that beat, because it helps the singers know it's the cue for the singers, and the tenor needs that note. If the tenor doesn't hear that, they won't be able to grab that note. So they always have a reason for everything why it needs to be there. So there was kind of that balance of play what's written, or you can have a little freedom in this section.
Absolutely. Yeah. How do you like playing with a conductor?
It took me some getting used to, because that's a skill in itself, because you kind of have to be doing like many things at once. You have to be reading, you have to be paying attention to the conductor, you have to be listening, so you're kind of doing a whole bunch of different things at once. You kind of get used to it after doing it a while. And like the thing about the shows, well, there's a bunch of rehearsals. Guy like you, have you ever gone in and done a show where you were just subbing, where you just had to read it down?
I did, but usually,
I could never do that. I would not be able to do that. Yeah, I need the rehearsals, and then like the show. Let's say you're doing it for 3 weeks. Well, by the last week, it's like everyone is just
your stuff.
Yeah, everyone is just killing it.
Yeah. And it's so different from any rock and roll group, isn't it? Because every conductor is different. Because some of those guys, they will go 1, 2, 3, 4, and some of them want you to be right on point, as they come down with their hands, like boom. And some of them, especially the classically trained conductors, they will go boom, right? So they're always ahead of the beat, especially if you have like a big orchestra. So that gave me some trouble here and there, because in our musical world that I work in, our conductor is always very much on point with everything. But when I did some jobs with a classical orchestra, and the conductor was very much ahead of the time, or let's put it this way, the orchestra was very much laid back. The guy went zoop, and I went boom, and then the orchestra came whoop. So it was always the first one, right? Yeah. And so I had to really take some time and concentrate on the whole feeling that this whole orchestra came up with. I had to really adopt that. That gave me a couple of difficulties at first.
The few times that I've worked with the conductor, I've never played with a full orchestra like you're talking about. Most of the pits that I played in had maybe 4 or 5 people.
Right.
So it's a very small version of that. But I did play in a classical guitar ensemble when I was in college with classical guitar, and we were doing like Vivaldi and Thielemann Suzzatto, like instant orchestration pieces where it's 4 parts and everybody picks a line. And that director did conduct. Yeah. And he was always talking about bouncing off the bottom. And I thought that was a really cool, like, visual way to explain that whimsical feel of bounce music, or like a follow the bouncing ball.
Absolutely.
Kind of a thing. No sooner that the note hits, it's bouncing. So I got to looking at him when he was conducting, I forget what the pattern is or whatever, but I was thinking of bouncing off of the notes, bouncing off of each landing.
Right.
That's what I kind of, that's the one thing that I can say that I took away from conducting.
Yeah, okay. What about the Nashville Number System? Because that's a thing that's actually big in the US and it's not that big in Germany. Yeah. For some reason, because it makes complete sense to me to use that.
It's pretty easy to use because it kind of goes back to my college music theory, because we would do analysis, part writing analysis, using the Roman numerals.
Yes.
And essentially, the number system is the Roman numerals. So in the diatonic key, you have a 1 chord, a minor 2 chord, a minor 3, a 4, 5, and there's a Roman numeral that's associated with each of those diatonic chords in the key. In the number system, the way that I understand it, there's a lot of slightly different ways to do it.
Oh, yeah?
But they just they use like a 1, 4,
for the
5, minor 6, and they're using Roman numerals. So if you know the association of the Roman numeral to the chord in the diatonic key, then you can read the number system charts pretty easily.
And it makes life so much easier when you're working with different singers.
Because it's not key specific.
Yes, right.
It's whatever key you're in, it's the same.
To me, it makes complete sense. For some reason, it's not that big here in Germany.
No?
No, it's not.
I have a funny story I could tell really quickly about the Nashville Number System specifically. Dave Rowe, rest in peace, the great bass player, played with Johnny Cash, and he became a mentor to me. I met him here in my Warwick days.
Oh, really?
But we became fast friends, and he became like Uncle Dave to me, and he kind of took me under his wing, and we were good. We were very good friends. I was in Nashville doing some work for Hans Peter with Warwick, building a showroom, etc. I was overseeing this big project. So for a year, I spent a lot of time in Nashville, which was cool to be able to be in that city.
So much music going on.
So much music and so much going on. And one day, Dave called me and said, "Hey, I'm playing over at a place called the Family Wash. I'm playing with this other guy." Who is actually Paul Simon's drummer, but he plays guitar, chicken pick and Telecaster guitar in Nashville and fronts a band. I can't remember his name right now, but he was playing with him at this local cool live music venue. He invited me to come hear him, and I said, sure, I'll come. And he was playing string bass. I went there with the intention to go listen. And he said, as soon as I got there, he said, hey, you want to play a tune? I said, probably not. I said, more than likely, he's going to do some stuff out of the book, and it would kind of put me on the spot. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. He won't do anything out of the book. He'll just just tell him you want to play a swing blues or some jump blues or a 2-5-1 or something. He jams on that. He'll just do some chicken picking stuff. Don't worry about that, because it's upright, which is not my first instrument. And I sure as heck don't want to read on upright sitting in Nashville with all these heavy cats. And he said, don't worry about it. So they bring me up on stage, and the guy, the first thing that he does is turns around and says, you want to do something out of my book? What am I going to say? No. I said, all right. He said, let's do number 12. Right. Open up, there's a book on a stand right there with all the number system charts all in there. And, there's like 40 tunes in there, and they all got a number on them. So I open it up to page 12, and he says 1 and a 2, and here we go. Fortunately, it was all Roman numerals.
Okay.
And it had all the repeat slashes and the repeat A section and repeat B section, and there was a second ending, and I miraculously read it down. I didn't mess it up, you know what I mean? And I got through it. And then at the end of that song, then he turns around and goes, Dave said you like to play the blues. You want to play a burning swing jumping blues with like 2-5-1? And I'm like, yeah, that would be great. But he was trying to see what I was made of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was trying to see if I had
challenging you.
Yeah, to see if I was the kind of guy he might be able to call in the future or not. So then that went well and everything was cool. And I get off the stage and I come over to Dave and I'm like, Dave. He goes, I didn't think he would do that. I didn't think he would do that. So that was my first, kind of like trial by fire in the Nashville scene, having to like jump up there, read down a chord chart. And again, it's just a darn good thing that I knew what everything meant. Once I opened that book, I looked at it and I knew what it meant. And I was able to make it happen. The fact that I played it very simple, you know what I mean? Because I was on upright, so I was kind of like a lot of 1s and 5s and 8s, an occasional third to sell the tonality of the chord. But for the most part, I was playing it very straight. But that kind of playing is what people like.
Absolutely.
Because he's trying to sing. He's trying to concentrate on the melody. He's trying to sing, and he just wants really good fundamental bass playing. So
the foundation.
So what I played for it worked, and I got in and I got out. I didn't die.
Yeah. Amongst all those things, like reading music and reading chord charts, Nashville Number System, what would you say is the most important part?
I think that for me, I mean, in my journey, with what I've done has been the chord charts and the Roman numeral stuff, because I can kind of lump those into one. Because even in rock and roll, in the recording studio environment, there's all different versions of that. Sometimes very crude, sometimes. And like if I go into a singer-songwriter, the majority of the session work that I've done has been singer-songwriter stuff, meaning the artist is a piano player, or a lot of times they're a guitar player and a singer. They write their own songs, and now a rhythm section has been hired to create rhythm section parts for these previously just acoustic songs.
That's right.
And we have to listen to the song and collectively together come up with what is going to complement this song, the best. What kind of pulse do we want to put on it? What kind of groove and feel do we want to put it? Where do we want to put the feel? Right up on top or slightly, relaxed coming from the back seat? All these kind of different things you discuss as a rhythm section and how we can treat this song the most tasteful way. And in that environment, there are chord charts that are written out real quick, so that
and they will also give you a lot of freedom, right, to come up with your own stuff.
An incredible amount of freedom.
Yeah,
it's an interesting place to be musically, because on one hand you want to be fundamental and you want to be supportive, but you don't want to be so generic that it has no life. So you have to pick your places to introduce like something cool, something melodic, or something that kind of turns a little bit of attention to the bass in kind of a cool way that's tasteful. And you just got to pick your places. You know where to do it, where it's not going to interfere. Like I think like at the end of the vocal phrase, any place there's naturally a drum fill, well, that's probably a pretty natural place to do some sort of movement with the bass. Or like, in the outro of the song where the refrain is going and the chorus is repeating, that's a perfect place to evolving the bass line and doing variations of it, or even playing out and making the outro like a little bit of a bass feature. So the more you do it, you just get used to like, where's the places where I can do something cool, and where's the places where I just need to stay home and lay it down,
Absolutely. There's reading music, reading chord charts, reading the Nashville Number System on the one side, but on the other side, all of this doesn't mean you don't have to use your ears, right? That is obviously the most important thing.
I think it's important to remember, and my experience certainly has taught me this, that you or I or whoever is on that session for a reason. They like the way that we play. And they have us there because they know that we're competent, you know what I mean? And they like what we have to play. So our ideas do have value. I've made mistakes where I went in, I did a session in LA, probably the biggest session I ever did in my career.
Okay.
They flew me to LA. They paid me $1,500.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it was at Conway Studios.
Yeah.
And Kenny Arnoff was in the studio
Yeah,
next door to me doing overdubs. And I was kind of like, whoo, I'm in the big time. And I went in and I had learned the tunes, and I had prepared like 3 different kind of treatments for each tune. We started recording, and I was like, I'm going to play it straight. I'm going to give them just the meat and potatoes, and they're going to be really happy. And I'm going to come out smelling like roses. So I lay down the first track, and I got it in the first take. You know, it was great. Yeah. And then they're like, okay, let's move on to a different tune. So then we do another tune, right? And I play it down, and it's in between takes or whatever, you know. And I see them all talking, and they're like, would you come in the control room? We just want to talk to you for a minute, you know. And I'm like, oh crap, they're gonna fire me, you know. They're gonna dunce cap me or whatever. I go in, and they're like, well, we wanted to talk to you because, like, the way that you're playing, like, the reason we hired you, like, we saw your videos and stuff, and you're like, and you're doing kind of all this, like, really
stuff?
You're doing all this cool stuff, but, like, it seems like, no offense to you, but we could have got anybody to do what you're doing right now. Right. We kind of want more of you, you know. And I was like, no problem. Yeah, I can definitely do that. I was going the other way. I was trying to be on my best behavior, and they're like, no. Don't be on your best behavior. If it's too much, we'll let you know. You know, but you know, go for it. Just go for it more. And then I was like, oh, okay. So I learned a big lesson that like you think you're doing this big gig, and it's important to be really super disciplined and be really, you know, on your best behavior. And if they've hired you to be there, they want you to be you. Yeah. So sometimes that's the thing about studio work, is that everybody's so worried about doing a good job that they can kind of underplay.
Yes, right.
And it ends up sounding...
There's overplaying, but there's also underplaying,
and it sounds generic. And the things that make all these great recordings like Lee Sklar, and you know, he's always doing something cool in every recording he's ever done. Chuck Rainey, check him out. He's always doing something cool. Something cool. You know what I mean? Like something a little bit special in every recording he's ever done. You know, I took a lot from guys like that, like listening to him and going, oh, he did it just slightly different that second, or the second time through the chorus. He did it slightly different than he did it the first time.
Yeah. All right, people. Those were a few thoughts on reading music, the Nashville Number System, reading chord charts, and studio work. We hope you liked what you saw and heard. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Hit the bell for notifications on the videos. We have new material coming out every week. And if you want to find out more about Sadowsky basses, please go to sadowskybass.com or check out all the other videos on this channel. See you next time. That's it from Lars and Andy. Bye-bye.
Peace.